What's up everyone, this is Ryan with Dangerous Edge, and today I'm just going to do a video on how to full spin and how to manage distance with full spin. I'm going to be throwing these two knives. These are my usual knives, my go-to. We have the Leppen stock by Kevlar Supreme and the Sureflight 12-inch. Let's get into it. So when throwing full spin, it can be difficult to figure out just because compared to like half spin, obviously the knife is moving a lot more. And when you're standing there and you're holding the knife, it's kind of hard to like do the quick calculations of like, how far do I extend and how fast do I spin the knife? And ultimately it comes down to just feeling it out. And what's really important too is to read the knife. You want to see how your first ones go in. If they're going in like this, it means it's under rotating. If they're coming in low, it means that it's over rotating. You know, you want it to come in just at the right point. And so once you figure out where that is, you really want to kind of like bullet the knife and throw it harder so there's less time for it to overspin or underspin. And you have the right oomph with your distance, and that's pretty much how you get it. And it gets a little tricky with the distance as well. When you're trying to throw close, you want to keep your elbow bent, and there's also about how you hold the knife. I like to have it kind of pointed like a wizard wand. So when I'm doing it, I consider that I'm making the knife do exactly a full rotation. And when I do it like this, I kind of get like this mental block of not understanding that it's actually going to be going like a full rotation and then a quarter. So that's kind of up to your preference. I just feel when I have it like this, I can do more of a whipping motion like that, as opposed to a drag down, which is better at certain distances. So as you can probably see in that one, on the second one, I do kind of like a foot dip, where I put one foot in the air behind me, and I do that just to balance out because I'm leaning so far forward and extending more. It's like a really like cartoon version of the original throw, and that's really how you can gauge it for longer distance. Now it's kind of like cheating because you are just putting your body closer without moving your feet, but that's really how it has to be for some versions of full spin, just because you have to let the knife spin and you can only do so much to gauge how it spins. Like no spin, you can really, you know, stop the knife and let it float facing up and let it dip down. But for spin moves, especially full spin, it's hard to like either stop it entirely or to slow it down to the perfect degree. In fact, the farther you go back, you probably want to just start doing like double spins, because that's just what the knife wants to do. It's what your body wants to do. So that's what's good about full spin close up, is it's the most relaxed feeling of knife throwing, because you're just doing what your body wants to do, what the knife wants to do. And once you find that perfect equilibrium, it just goes in every single time. So that's what I'd say is work on just dipping and extending more. I'll throw some other shots in here just to show what that looks like for my style of throwing full spin. So that was the full spin from two different distances, and you can kind of see, well hopefully you can see, how I extenuate my body to try and meet the distance gap. So with that one too, I really had to slow down the rotation as much as I could with my hand. And how that looks is when you're throwing, you kind of just like don't open your hand when you let go of the knife. You let it slip out of your hand as if you're letting, like, you know, I guess anything slip out of your hand.
Come on, man.
It just helps the knife slow down, because when you let go of it, you're just saying, I want it to start spinning now. If you don't let go of it, you kind of postpone that as much as you can. So that's pretty much how you kind of gauge it for distance, you know? You want to make sure that you're extenuating your body. You want to like try and slow it down by letting it slip out of your hand rather than let go of it. And the rest is kind of just figuring out the speed that you want to throw the knife. Not necessarily spin it, but just throw it in order to meet that distance gap. So for double full spin with 2 knives instead of like 2 rotations, it's the same thing exactly as a full spin, which is nice. You just make sure your hands clamp together. A general rule of thumb is the more knives that you're throwing at once, the harder you gotta grip it with like a firmer handshake. And another thing I kind of left out earlier is that when you're throwing full spin, you really want to make sure that when you're releasing, that the knives are level on top and they're not like sideways like this. Because you just think about how the rotation works, you know, if it's sideways like this, it's going to catch wind differently and go all sorts of ways. But if you keep it, we call it like a coin slot, like, you know, at arcades, you put the quarter in just like vertical. You want to make sure it's like that. And when you let go, it hopefully will just keep that rotation, will keep it tight, it'll go right in. And that's about it.